Hello and welcome to Felixstowe Television. Now we have a lovely programme today that I think you're going to find very helpful. Now the subject is something that we've all heard of. Unfortunately, some of us may have experienced it with a partner, or we may know a friend or a relative that's experienced it. Today we're talking about domestic violence. Now I know what you're thinking. It's Christmas, it's a happy time. Why are we bringing this subject up now? All the ads tell us that they're going to be lovely, happy families all sitting round the table, having Christmas dinner, enjoying the Christmas event. But sadly, that's not what happens to some people. There are women out there who are in a very difficult, abusive relationship, and Christmas can be quite a boiling point. Today we have with us Jill Dean, who's the operations manager with Lighthouse, which is an organisation that deals with, they have refuges, but they are also there to give advice. So you've got quite a lot of help there if you want it. So I'd very much like to introduce Jill to you.
Hello,
Jill.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Now, am I right in what I'm saying?
You are, yes.
Yeah.
Lighthouse Women's Aid, and we were formerly known as Ipswich Women's Aid, but we've been in being for 40 years nearly.
Gosh.
And we have got 2 refuges in Ipswich and a women's centre, because some women prefer to attend appointments for advice and access our services without going into refuge, and of course that's fine. And also when women move on, they also can use that, or it might, for a spectrum of reasons, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, so you sort of back them up, you give them support so they don't feel alone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If a woman has or is or knows somebody that's experiencing domestic violence, then they can contact us. And it can be around being safe, it can be about safety planning, it might be discovering the options, legal advice, counselling. They might want to attend the Freedom Programme, which is a programme for women that have experienced domestic violence. We do Stronger Families, where we work with the whole family, including the children. Escape the Trap. Just there's so many things that we can do to support a woman and her family, because every case is so unique, and we just want them to be able to get the support from us that they need, and that can change. It can start small and then lead into something else.
Oh, so it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to leave your home.
No.
You can there's something that can be done, because it looks like if you're in an abusive relationship, you have to leave, then go into a refuge, and there's no middle road.
Well, a woman will be abused, have 32 incidents of abuse before she leaves, and on average it can take a woman 8 times to finally leave, that she might leave and he comes and begs her to come back and said, I'll never do it again, I'm really sorry. But the thing about domestic abuse is it escalates, and there are times when a woman's more likely to be abused, and of course the level of domestic abuse goes up each time, and domestic abuse is about power and control. So if a woman says she's going to leave, she's more likely to be abused, because she's standing against the power and control that the perpetrator's inflicting on her.
Really?
So it puts her in more danger, yes.
Goodness. And what I wasn't aware of was that we're not just talking about physical violence.
No, sadly.
There's this lovely little film called White Ribbon, which I know you've seen.
Yes.
And do you think it's appropriate to maybe just show it now to let our viewers see
I do.
what it means?
There are a number of films and events that happen on the day, which is White Ribbon event. It happens every year. And it's a film that's been made this year, and gives an illustration, a dramatic illustration, and then there are people from around the area that have spoken on it to support the work that's being done. So,
if I show it
Yes.
now, then you'll see what we're talking about, because I've got lots of questions about it afterwards. So this little film's called the White Ribbon Film.
Hey babes,
Hi.
what do you think you're doing?
I'm just going out.
Not like that, you're not.
Well, it's just something I threw on.
How many times have I told you? We do not go up like a little prostitute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll go check. Hi. See ya. Ready? Yeah, let's go.
Violence against women happens more than you think.
Although men can also be victims, this crime is committed mostly by men.
About 77% of all the incidents reported to the police in Suffolk are from women.
In Suffolk, we've had more than 8,166 incidents reported in the last 12 months.
But we know that domestic abuse goes unreported a lot of the time, and the true figure is likely to be double that.
Not everyone has the courage to report it, but our message to people in Suffolk is clear.
Don't suffer alone. Get help by talking to someone.
We cannot do this alone. Our approach in Suffolk is a collaborative one where we work with many partner organisations.
We want to reduce the number of domestic abuse incidents and repeat victimisation.
And increase the safety of all of those who experience forms of abuse.
There are hundreds of people in Suffolk trained to help.
From health and social workers
to the police and specialist agencies with dedicated staff.
If you have an abusive partner, it can be very hard to face up to this.
If you think of somebody you know who's affected, reach out to them.
Let them know they're not alone.
Join us in saying no to violence against women.
Make your pledge today. If you hear it or see it, don't ignore it.
Say no to domestic abuse.
Make your voice count.
Well, Jill, that wasn't domestic violence as I understood it, but I could see what was coming.
He was quite intimidating, wasn't
Yes.
he? You really felt that. And I don't know about you, I think there could be some domestic violence that is likely to occur. You could feel his anger, couldn't you?
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
he'd asked her to go and get changed and then a doorbell went, so she'd still gone out in clothes that he didn't want her to wear. But I suspect whatever she'd got on, he didn't want her to go out, and he was being very crude and rude about somebody who he's meant to love and care for, and very judgmental about her. So I'm sure that wasn't an isolated incident.
It didn't look it.
No, it didn't.
I found it quite chilling, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
It was him. He opened the door and he was all smiles.
Oh, absolutely.
So is it that you can't, would I know somebody that was in trouble? I mean, if you see the couple, they looked a lovely
Well, she
couple.
kissed him goodbye,
Yes.
just like a tender, loving
Yes.
wife. They'd learnt to act the part, haven't they? And
Yes.
for her, the fear of sharing with somebody what her life was like would probably, she probably felt it would put her at more risk. And we don't see the whole scenario, but if there are children there and she's gone out and left the children with their father or the perpetrator, she might have been fearful about upsetting him, that he would then be unpleasant towards the children.
dear.
There's all sorts of scenarios that can go on, but she would be most fearful of the repercussions and also the impact on the family. And it's embarrassing, isn't it, to think that somebody might make a judgment about you living with a violent or an abusive partner.
So I suppose what I'm asking is, you're there to help the women and you can give them advice, but surely it's the man that needs the advice. It's the man that needs the, needs help.
Well, so often in these cases, the man will say to the woman, well, I wouldn't have hit you if you hadn't done this, or if you'd had my dinner ready, then I wouldn't have been angry. So all he will say is, it's your fault. It's not my fault, it's your fault. So whatever he does, when he's telling her, I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again, he will be also saying, if only you hadn't done this, if only you hadn't done that, if you hadn't gone out dressed like that, then I wouldn't have been angry. And in actual fact, he probably is not ready to take the blame. And yes, perpetrators do need help and support, and it is available out there, but they've got to be ready to take it. And in the meantime, the women need to be safe and know that they're valued and that they are worth more than that.
Is that what you do then? Give them back their self-respect and their feeling of being valued?
When they're ready. When a woman comes to the refuge, I manage the operational side, so the refuges, and when a woman comes, her self-esteem is very low. It's a big decision to leave, and they come into the refuge. We go through an assessment process and they're allocated a room and made very welcome. But often they want to just get to their room, have a cup of tea and sleep. The whole process is exhausting. They're emotionally drained. They've had to pack and leave in a hurry, usually when the chap's out of the house, because they're fearful about him coming back. And it takes so much, and it's often just that final thing, and they'll think, I can't take it anymore.
Dear, isn't it wonderful they have you to come to?
Yes. Well, we're really very proud of the work that we do, and we see around 80 women and about 130 children a year through the refuge. And that's a massive amount of people to make a difference to. And when they leave us, they're usually in a position to move on, get their own independent home and start again, which is great.
Oh, isn't that a wonderful job to do? Fabulous.
Thank you.
Oh, that's what, and it's such a brave thing to do, to leave your home. It must be so difficult.
Well, it's so also often it's not just the perpetrator they're leaving leaving their home. We often have homes near good friends, near parents, grandparents, near clubs, near schools, networks where we've grown up. Our children might be in, local clubs, beavers, brownies. They might be doing well at school, or they might have a family member with a disability who depends on them. There are so many influences on our lives that make us think, I can't leave, I've got to stay.
Yes.
And that's very, very hard. So when they're ready to leave, we do everything we can to make them feel confident that they've made the right decision and help them get back on their feet.
Wonderful, wonderful. And also, do you get calls where people say, I don't know if I'm making this up, or I don't know if I'm abused, or am I exaggerating?
Yes.
Do they sometimes feel that because they've been so downtrodden?
Depressed, And often when they come in, they'll say, he wasn't that bad actually, he wasn't really that bad, he could be quite nice, or it was my fault because I didn't have his dinner ready, or because we hadn't got enough money, or he's just been made redundant, or he doesn't like my sister, so he was upset, or because they were there. They then start to reflect and believe the excuses that he's made, and we have to say to them, just think about this. If you're thinking about returning, how long did it take you to leave, and is it a life you want to go back to? Because of course, when they come to refuge, they come because they want to, and they only stay because they want to. It's not a prison, but we will do everything we can to make them aware of the choices that they have. Because most women want, especially women with children, they want to make a decision, like all of us, that they want to know where they're going to live, where they're going to sleep, their children are going to be secure, where they go to school, can they afford to feed them, clothe them? Because as a parent, we all want the same things for our children, don't we? We want them to be safe and secure, and that really influences our decisions.
That's wonderful. Do you know, that's wonderful. So if you're out there and you just want to talk, can they ring?
They can, yes. They can either ring the 24-hour helpline, and if they ring between 8:30 and 5:30, they'll get one of the staff, who are the day staff, who will speak to them. If they ring after that time, their call will go into a message and somebody will ring back, but they'll probably recommend that they ring during the day.
Yeah.
We also have a women's centre, which is on a different number, and it's open office hours Monday to Friday. And if they prefer to go in rather than speak on the phone, they can ask for an appointment for advice.
Right.
Sometimes speaking to a stranger on the phone can be good, and other times people like to go in. And also if you need a translator or want to have a friend with you, that's fine too.
Wonderful. So I just want to say, if you're out there and you recognise some of these things that are being said, at the end of the programme we're going to put all the contact numbers up. Please, please take a note of them, and please ring up. Don't feel alone. You're not alone. You have Lighthouse and they're local to you. They're in Ipswich.
That's right, yes.
Which is pretty local to Felixstowe and surrounding areas. So do please pick up a pen and take the number down. I think that's just absolutely wonderful. Is there anything that you would want to add to that? I mean,
there is actually that some women are not ready to leave, and we run the Freedom Programme, and that can be for women who are still in the relationship or who have moved on. And sometimes people need help with a safety plan about knowing what to take with them when they leave and preparation to leave. We're not judgmental, we'll help you in whichever way we can, and it's really important that you get that advice. And it's all confidential, that we won't speak to anyone without your consent. You can speak to staff at the centre or on the telephone, and it will be completely confidential. And at Christmas, when everyone's at home, we try and make Christmas as nice as we can for women and children in the refuge. And at this time of year, we put out an appeal. We try and give everybody a new present. We're always glad of donations.
Yeah.
But at Christmas, we try and get together enough new presents to give to the women and children. And if listening to this, you feel that you could donate a toy or a present, we'd be really grateful. So please give us a ring on either of the numbers that will go out or at our headquarters, and we'll tell you where you can drop a present. We love presents. We don't have any imitation weapons for obvious reasons.
Right.
And we don't use anything that has a flame, such as candles, because it's communal living in the refuge. But we'd be really grateful, and so would the women that come to us. When they leave, they often come with nothing, that the children leave their favourite toys, and they leave in a hurry and they haven't got things. So we're always really grateful to have nice toys and things to give people at Christmas. I'm just trying to think if there's anything, other points that I should have raised.
Well, there's something I'd like to ask actually. If you're not ready to leave, and I picked up what you said about if you threaten to leave, it could escalate the violence or escalate the abuse.
Yes.
Can you give advice on how to act if you're not ready to leave the house? Is that part of
it's
the
really
advice?
yes, because one thing about perpetrators is while they are violent, aggressive, it could be financial abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse. People will question that and think that a couple would always have willing sex with each other. They don't always, and rape. You can have rape within relationships. That's another form of power and control. But if you feel that your relationship isn't right and there's an element of abuse, but you don't know that you're ready to leave, phone one of us, arrange to come into the Women's Centre and speak to us. And you will probably need to come at a time when he's not aware. He wouldn't want you to think you were talking about an abusive relationship. But most of us like informed choice. And if it's just something that you feel the viewer might think is about their relationship, just speak to us. And women leave when they're ready, and safety planning is really important. You're more at risk when you're about to leave, so it's best not to say you're going. Also, when women are pregnant, the likelihood of abuse escalates because there's somebody coming into the world that's going to take the attention away from them.
Oh,
really
my
tragic,
goodness.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Other times that abuse increases is Christmas. You know, lots of people are short of money. Money and alcohol exacerbate poor relationships, as does the World Cup. So they're all times
As
that
does the World Cup.
we
my
see a
goodness.
massive escalation in domestic
No.
abuse, and the refuges are full during World Cup and in the new year. Very tragic, but that's our job, that's what we're there for, and we welcome anybody's call and anything we can do to support them.
It's wonderful.
If a woman lives in locally to the refuge, it's likely that we would recommend that they went somewhere else when they flee domestic violence. So when they go, they might have a relative in Colchester or Basingstoke or Derby or somewhere that they feel they'd be safer to move right away, so they don't run into them all the time.
And you can arrange that,
We can
you?
do.
So you look,
yes,
you really do help.
Well, I hope so.
So Jill, how long have you been doing this?
Well, Refuge
Yes.
in Ipswich has been going for 40 years.
But you haven't.
No, I haven't, no. Not quite. But
40 years
yes,
is a long
yes,
time,
yes.
so well established.
Well, lots of staff have worked there for many, many years. Our longest serving member of staff, I think, has been there approaching 30 years.
Really?
And, so there's a lot of knowledge there, and we always ask her if we can't remember something or somebody, we'll say, do you remember that person? And she does. But whilst we've got staff that have been there a long time, we've got new staff and a very vibrant 21st century organisation, and developing and evolving all the time. Very, very positive place to be, and I love my job. So I think that helps.
I think you do a fabulous job.
Thank you.
But once again, if you feel that you're alone, you're not. Lighthouse is there. Do please ring. If it helps, they'll give you advice. Just ring them and just talk to them, because it might be the first time you've actually talked to anybody about this. Could that be so?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll definitely put your numbers up and we'll leave them there for a very short while, but a short while so that you can write down the numbers.
Yes.
I think you do a wonderful job.
Thank you. Well, if we reach somebody today that's feeling that they might be in an abusive relationship, or they know somebody that might be in an abusive relationship, then I'm really pleased that we've spoken to you today.
Yes.
Because it is 1 in 4 women, slightly statistically it's probably between 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 women will experience domestic abuse in their lifetime. It's far too high, isn't it?
It is, and you might not see it then because it's well hidden.
No.
If you were, I wouldn't say a close friend, but if you a neighbour, you wouldn't know that that was happening.
And if somebody wants to hide it from you, they'll only speak to you when you're ready. But we all do know people where they say they've walked into a door, or they're very clumsy. People are clumsy and do walk into doors. But perpetrators are very careful to punch in places that aren't always conspicuous. And as we said, it's not always physical violence, it's power and control. But
does it move on to physical violence?
Often, yes. And as I say, it often escalates, especially if a woman says, I'm going to leave, or, I don't want to be with you, or I'm going to call the police. Then yes, that can be really difficult for the woman.
Goodness. I'm so glad you came today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
I really hope. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maureen. Thank you.
I hope this has been a helpful programme. And again, please know that there are numbers at the end of the programme if it's of help to you. Thank you for listening, and goodbye for now.